I think one of the wonderful things about being a parent is every day you kind of see your children kind of uncover kind of the best version of themselves. The other day, Mary Jo and I would kind of sit back and look at the summer that we just went through, and there was some very distinctive kind of best version of ourselves that our kids were going through. So I kind of just wanted to talk a little bit about that, just to introduce the topic. Christian, our youngest, turned 6 in June, and playing Xbox, he fell in love with the Beatles. It was really an amazing thing. Ryan, our mysterious Ryan, was starting to connect and pick up all these little things, dreadful things on the news, the tsunami, and we had to go into the basement a couple times over the summer, and obviously the latest with Irene, became hypersensitive about his environment. Right? And now the word climate change, every time I talk about that, has a very different meaning to him. Our oldest, John, he turns 10 in June, and the whole theme for us this summer in my conversation with John on Sunday was about commitment. So after watching Jamie Oliver's TED Talk, he is now on his 23rd days of boycotting school lunch. And then my daughter, Justin Bieber. I'm going to tell you the story with Sophie. This is the last thing we expected, right? So she made really amazing friends last school year and did all the right thing, did the brownie, and over the summer, play date, a lot of time on the phone convincing each other how amazing Justin Bieber is, and some certain existentialism about his songs. But the one thing that we never expected was the 4th day of school. And we felt something was weird leading up to it. This is my wife having 4 kids, and being the CEO, you put stuff like this on your email. Rest now, gain bearing, attack when you're in position of strength. But the email that I got was early in the morning, Houston, we have a problem. Sophie refused to go to school. She hated it. 4th day of school, she hated it. And this was really strange to us because if you were to label her the way that Howard Gardner would label the multiple intelligence, she had the social intelligence. I mean, she could make you feel really good, or she can make you feel really bad, right? Just make friends really easy. So after a lot of conversation with teachers and stuff, we finally found out why, right? All of her friends that she made last year, none of them were in her class. They had subdivided that group, 60-something kids, into 3 different classes, and none of her friends were in that class. Now, worse than that, when she goes to lunch, she's not allowed to sit with her friends. You have to sit with your class. And they were proud of the fact that they just bought these brand new color-coded tables, right? So you're at the red table. So that's just really amazing to me that us as human beings, as living organism, we have somehow superimposed this really mechanical system on top of us, literally, especially in our educational system. So this is the biggest conversation lately. This is what we're all chasing. And this is what we're all scared about. This was our fear that somehow our educational system is in decline. And I think Daniel Epstein mentioned yesterday that this system that we have, I think it's pretty amazing. It just happens to be not good enough anymore. And why is it not good enough? Because we are expecting a very different result than what this system was intentionally designed to do in the first place. So when we talk about all of this, right, the incredible moment for us is not even at the idea level, it's really at the questions level. So the opportunity for us now, in this moment of time, is to take the opportunity to really reinvent the future of learning. When I look at reinventing anything, I mean, there's always these clues and insight that we need to learn from. And then for me, it's always looking at complex living systems. What can we learn from it? So I want to show you this really amazing clips and the sound that comes with it. This is a flock of birds. Right? This amazing, agile, fast-moving survival system literally adjusts from moment to moment. That is really being controlled by 3 very simple rules. And in fact, we have algorithm on computer simulation can actually replicate that based on those 3 simple rules. So if we are going to reinvent a system of learning, what are the simple rules? What are our simple rules that we need to somehow walk away with? That becomes kind of the new DNA, the new operating systems. I've been kind of thinking about this and coming up with just a few, and I'm hoping that with the conversation unfolding that we can come up with a few more. Not too many, because they need to be very simple rules, but do no harm. Now, we think that do no harm in the context of children is so easy to do, but if you look at the last 100 years, the last 50 years, this is not the case. I love playing tennis, but I never realized that this is where old tennis balls end up in our schools. And if you look at those chairs, I mean, they are the most rigid chairs that you can possibly find, and yet we put our kids in those chairs. We've been doing that for the last 50 years. Right? It's just amazing. Amazing that simple things that we do not do to make sure that we do not do harm. And the worst part is that why are those tennis balls on the chairs? Because of the rubber thing on those metal legs doesn't slide easy on the VCT floor that we put. And if you think about it, VCT is pervasive. It's in every single one of our school. It's everywhere because it's the cheapest thing you can put down. And because the administrator hates scuff marks on them, they wax them, right? And imagine the chemical in the process of waxing and removing the wax from that floor. Just a domino effect. When we collaborated with Bruce Mott a few years back, I think for me it was always about what are the do no harm stuff that we need to get out there, right? And for us, the research project, those questions became an ecology of ideas, right, that we wanted to capture based upon a very simple ideas that Malaguzzi came up with. He created the Reggio Emilia pedagogy, and a very simple idea that there are 3 teachers of children. The first one are the adults, the second one are their peers, the third is the physical environment. And why Bruce Mott? Because he has this incredible capacity to create a language that is so clear that that has this galvanizing action to it. So that was really one of the reasons why we did this project was, how do we arm the parents to come to a board meeting, to have the right language, to talk to the administrator who are making these fundamental decisions. In fact, we have to move from do no harm to do only good. The person that's going to come after me, Sarah Elizabeth Epo, is going to talk about her amazing school. But I want to talk about what an amazing mission she has. So she and I collaborated together and with Bruce Mott with this incredible optimism that we wanted to kind of reinvent, in fact, design a new learning ecology. And we walked out of there with this framework to achieve probably right now the most stringent sustainable standards. And the idea that we just didn't want to get to net zero energy. We wanted to get to net zero. It just take one more to get to net positive. So this framework that we have for new school actually create more energy than it consumes. It is net zero in water. It tries in this 10-acre land to restore a huge portion of it back to the original state. It wants to introduce urban farming and urban vegetable and take it from that right on site back into the school, back into the dining room for the kids. And obviously, at the end of the day, this is the space for kids. So in a conversation with them, the one thing that keep coming up over and over again is this introduction of just life, just robust life for them to interact and discover. And the spaces no longer contain, it gives them this idea that they are an international baccalaureate. So inquiry-based, the spaces that allows them to uncover and discover and ask questions really needs to be there. Another simple rule, failure is essential to learning, right? I think Ken Robinson put it best when he says that if you're unwilling to be wrong, then you're never going to learn anything. I have an amazing partner who works with me on the Third Teacher Plus, Christian Long, and he's an educator. He started out as an English teacher, and this was his concept. How do we create a design camp, a place that high school kids can come, and we're going to give them the hardest questions, and we're not going to provide them with any answer, but we're going to provide them with mentors. And they have to struggle through that, because our system right now is always about the simple answer and never about the hard questions. You can't tell in this picture which one is the kid and which one is the mentor. That's how far we want it to go. This is our latest pitch for a client. The moment for us now is to look at every challenge that we tackle and to say that the architecture that we want to design is really only a portion of it. We want to design the whole thing. We want to look at it from an economic position. We want to look at it from health. We want to look at it from a community cohesion. So they came to us, wanted to investigate what is STEAM? What is this idea of STEAM, right? And I think the previous speaker spoke about it. Well, this is what we have now. Every school has all this in there, right? But what we wanted to do differently is not silos it and not make it destination, right? You don't have to go to that place for math. You don't have to go to that place for science. And if that's not what we want, what is this new spatial relationship that allows this collision to take place? Right, so the idea of this big giant buildings that we've been building, right? I mean, that's got to go away. I mean, that's really got to go away if we wanted to do no harm. The idea of having very much intimate academies that allows this closer relationship between the mentor and the teachers to the kids, I think is essential in the conversation that we've been having with educators. Right, so each one of the academies sort of takes on its own sense of place. And really, it wants to support this. And this was kind of a moment for us in the way that we were thinking about this project. We started out looking at this as STEAM, but by the time we're done, we're saying that this is design thinking. This is the way that all of us go through in terms of thinking in order to get to solutions. And in fact, the way a scientist thinks and the way an artist thinks is exactly the same. Goes through this process. It's overlapping. It's cyclic. So how can we design spaces that reinforce that pattern, reinforce that flow, reinforce that relationship? How can we design spaces that says that here you get to wonder and ask, and then you flow into a space that allows you to discover, and then you flow into a space that allows you to demonstrate, to prototype, and to tinker. Another rule, design for diversity. This is what we've been building for the last 50 years, 100 years, let's say. This is the building block, right? Self-contained classroom. There's a front wall with a chalkboard. Now there's a smart board. Chairs line up in a row, and if you're lucky, there's some windows that allows you to look out and some sunlight to come in. This is what we've been building. And we line them up. We line them up in double-loaded corridor. All of us have grown up in it. It's lined up with metal lockers on both sides, right? And if you just look at how we quantify the resources, if we look at any program for school planning, 30-something% of space is allocated to that one single use. I mean, that's just a waste. That's just a waste of space. One simple move, we can get to a very different pattern. We can get to a greater sense of what it feels like to wonder, to ask questions, to work with others, and then to actually iterate it, to prototype it, and then to launch it, and then to go back through that same cycle process again. Not too far away, North Shore Country Day, just in Winnetka. This is a project that we just finished for them. And every time that I talk about reinvention, talk about transformation, the idea of cost always comes into the picture, the earbuds that I mentioned before. So this is an early 19th century building, right? That we transformed completely on the inside, brought it up to a LEED standard. We did have some fun trying to get this nice modern piece of addition through the village of Winnetka. I had to spend many nights in front of the aesthetic review board justifying why we need to do that. But diversity, the community wanted a space that they can all get together, right? And this was part of the lower part where no daylight were coming in. So we decided just to blow out that floor and create this amazing space that allows the entire upper school to get together. Kids can hang out here and access their laptop if they want to. They can come out here and just talk. Or you can invite an amazing speaker to come in. You can actually have a very small performance here. So that transition, that agility, that diversity is what we were going after. And also spaces that gives kids the responsibility and the respect, right? This is a space that says that when you can come here, when you're not in class, do anything you want, you can talk, you can eat. And then spaces that has the ability to contain and then open, contain and then open. A space that allows for that greater sense of collisions, that greater sense of STEAM, which I think is critical to the design thinking in a way that the next generation needs to understand in the way that they need to think in order to solve very complex problems that we're facing. Tom Dorr, the head of school, wanted us to take on this idea of the Harkness table, right? How do you translate that to 21st century and to really allow us to that personal teaching and learning that we do here at North Shore. So every learning studio now has a combination of a learning classroom and the seminar style, so they can actually flow back and break out into smaller groups. It's a wonderful quote by Capra. So we go back to this idea that we need the language in order to create a new narrative if we're going to reinvent the future of learning. But it's interesting how the media is coming at us with this really very different language. Apparently now that if you get Office 2010, the implication here is somehow your grades get better, right? Simple as that.
Okay, class, our special guest is here, Helen Page.
We're going on a field trip to China!
Wow! When I was a kid, we would just go to the farm. No, seriously, where are you guys going?
All right, so what is the one thing that you saw right away was really wrong with it? I mean, it was so obvious to me the first time I saw this on TV. Anybody has a guess? The kids in the United States, daylight, is talking to a bunch of kids in China in daylight. 21st century classroom is really old classroom plus video conferencing, right? In fact, you can look at the furniture, it's actually still bolted down to the wooden floor. This actually got me a little bit emotional. You know, obviously, there's lots of stuff that gets put up in the summertime because we're looking for really amazing things for our kids to do in the summertime. And I saw this at one of the coffee store, right? Unleash creativity, genius, one child at a time. And this is a one-week program. Like, why wouldn't you want to do that during the entire school year? Educators, this is actually created by an educator. So I'm saying, can you create one that is 9 months long rather than just a week long? Kids loved it. They were already asking when we would offer the program next year. Right? Imagine if this is learning, if this is school every day. I mean, this advertising is just ridiculous. It's just ludicrous. So I'll end with this. Apparently this is a myth. In fact, they're offering money for anybody to authenticate this advertising. So Ernest Shackleton wanted to explore the South Pole, and he needed some guys to go with him. And he just needed 20-something guys, and he put on this advertising. Men wanted for hazardous journeys, small wages, bitter cold, long months of complete darkness, constant danger, safe return doubtful, honor and recognition in case of success, right? 5,000 guys signed up. Every single one of them, actually, they were stuck there for a couple years, I heard, in some of the research that I've done, but all of them made it back. So the point here is that we're at a point now we need to write a new advertisement in terms of what we want to do next, right? We need a whole new army of mentors that's going to really design a very different system and allows the next generation to basically save humanity and maintain the sacred balance of our planet. Thank you.